Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, you're teaching yourself English. That's amazing. But let's be honest, sometimes it can feel like you're trying to cross a massive ocean in a tiny boat with no map, right? It can feel a little bit lost, a little bit overwhelming. Well, what if I told you that you could have a map, a really clear, detailed, step-by-step guide that shows you exactly how to get from where you are right now to where you've always wanted to be, speaking English with confidence, with ease, with real fluency? That is exactly what we are going to build together today. This isn't just a list of random tips. This is your complete personal roadmap for the entire journey ahead. Okay, let's dive right in. Our adventure today is broken down into 5 essential stages. Think of these as the key landmarks on our map. First, and most importantly, we're going to craft your own personal learning map. Then, we'll look at the 2 major paths you can take on this journey and which one is right for you. After that, we'll talk about tools. We're going to equip your brain's toolkit with some incredibly powerful modern resources. Next, we'll learn how to spot and navigate some of those common bumps in the road. And finally, we will tackle the biggest challenge of all: how to make that final leap from just knowing the rules to achieving true, real-world fluency. You know, every great quest, every fantastic adventure has to begin with a clear destination in mind, and it's exactly the same with learning a language. The first step is to create a solid, effective plan. Because you've probably heard the saying, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And we are not here to wish. We are here to turn your desire for English fluency into an actionable, achievable reality. Now, to build this plan, we're going to use an incredibly powerful framework that businesses and successful people use all the time. It's called the SMART framework. And this is what turns a fuzzy, vague idea into a real concrete strategy. Let's break this down piece by piece. First up, we have S for specific. This is so important. A goal like, I want to get better at English, is just too vague. Where do you even start? A specific goal sounds like this. I want to learn enough vocabulary about software development so I can confidently participate in my team's daily stand-up meetings. See the difference? It's so much clearer. Next, M is for measurable. You absolutely need a way to track your progress, to know if you're winning. So, a measurable goal would be something like, I will learn 20 new vocabulary words every week and use them in sentences. This gives you a concrete target to hit. Then we have A for achievable. This is all about being honest and realistic with yourself to avoid getting overwhelmed and quitting. If you work a full-time job and have a family, a goal to study 4 hours every single day is probably not achievable, but I will study for 30 focused minutes every morning before work. Now that's something you can stick with. R is for relevant. Your goals have to matter to you. They need to be connected to your why. If you're learning English for a promotion at your finance job, your goals should be focused on business and economic terms, not learning the names of animals at the zoo. It has to align with your real-life motivation. And finally, T for time-bound. Every single goal needs a deadline. It's what creates a sense of urgency and focus. For instance, I will complete this entire online grammar course and all its exercises within the next 3 months. This simple 5-part framework truly is the bedrock of your entire learning journey. This slide just shows the magic of the SMART framework in action. It's a total transformation. Look at the first phrase, I want to improve my English. It's passive, it's a wish. It has no energy, no direction. But that second statement, that's not a wish, that's a mission. Let's run it through our checklist, shall we? Is it specific? Yes, a 10-minute conversation on common topics. Is it measurable? Absolutely. You can literally time it with your phone. Is it achievable? For sure. 10 minutes is a significant milestone, but it's not so daunting that it feels impossible. Is it relevant? Well, if your goal is to connect with people and have real conversations, it's perfectly relevant. And is it time-bound? You bet, by December. This is a real, tangible destination that you can now plug into your GPS. This is how you start. Okay, so you have your destination locked in. Now you need to decide which road you're going to take to get there. In the world of language learning, there are really 2 main highways. 2 core philosophies. There's the immersive path and the more conventional or traditional path. Let's dig in and figure out which one of these, or maybe a combination of both, is the right choice for your specific journey. So on one side, we've got immersive learning. The best way to think about this is like learning to swim by jumping right into the pool. It's all about surrounding yourself with English in its natural habitat. We're talking about watching movies without subtitles, listening to English podcasts on your commute, changing your phone's language to English, just trying to speak and communicate even if you're making a ton of mistakes. It's messy, it's organic, and it simulates how every single one of us learned our very first language through constant, meaningful exposure. Then, on the other side, you have conventional learning.
This is much more like taking formal swimming lessons with a coach. It's the structured, systematic, classroom-style approach. This is where you sit down and you learn the explicit rules of grammar. You memorize vocabulary lists using flashcards, and you do targeted drills and exercises. It's all about building a very strong, very conscious, and explicit foundation of how the language is supposed to work.
So, the big question is, which path is actually better? Well, this is where it gets really fascinating, because the research gives us an incredibly clear answer. Take a close look at this table. It shows the results from a study that compared the progress of students in both immersive and conventional programs over the same period of time. Now, focus on that first skill, speaking fluency. The group in the immersive program improved by a massive 18.1 points. That is a huge leap forward in their ability to speak smoothly and naturally. And the conventional group? They improved by just 1.0 point. They barely moved the needle at all. The difference is absolutely staggering. But now, look at the second skill, writing accuracy. The roles are completely and totally reversed. Here, the conventional group, with all its focus on grammar rules and structure, saw their scores improve by 10 full points. And the immersive group? They only gained 1.3 points. It's a night and day difference. So here's the crucial point, and this chart just makes it visually crystal clear. The best path depends entirely on what your SMART goal is. If your number one priority is to speak English confidently, to understand native speakers when they talk at a normal speed, and to have fluid conversations, then the data is screaming at you. The immersive method is wildly more effective. It builds that intuitive, practical, real-world skill. However, if your goal is to write a thesis for university, to pass a formal grammar exam, or to master perfect sentence structure for professional reports, then the structured, conventional approach is without a doubt the superior choice. But here's the real pro tip. You don't actually have to choose just one. The smartest, most successful learners create a hybrid approach. They use immersion for their listening and speaking practice, watching shows, talking to people, and they use conventional study to sharpen their writing and grammar. It's the best of both worlds. All right, we have our map and we've chosen our path. Now it's time to pack our bags and equip our toolkit. And look, in the 21st century, our most powerful tools aren't just dusty old textbooks anymore. They're powerful apps and software that are specifically designed to leverage the science of how our brains actually learn and, more importantly, how they remember things for the long haul. Now, if there is one single concept you need to understand in this section, it is this: the Spaced Repetition System, or SRS. This is not just some fancy tech buzzword. It's a scientifically validated memory hack, and it's a total game changer. You're probably familiar with something called the forgetting curve. The idea is simple. You learn something new today, and without review, your memory of it fades away over time, first quickly, then more slowly. What SRS does is it ingeniously interrupts that forgetting curve. It's like having a personal memory coach. Just as your brain is about to let go of a word or a phrase, the SRS algorithm prompts you to review it again. And here's the magic. Each time you successfully recall it, the system makes you wait a longer and longer period of time before showing it to you again. The interval might go from minutes to hours to days to weeks, and eventually to months or even years. This process systematically and efficiently forges that information into your robust, long-term memory. It is, hands down, the single most efficient way to learn and permanently retain huge amounts of information.
But, and this is a big but, not all apps that say they use SRS are created equal. Far from it. So if you're looking for a tool, here are the non-negotiable features that separate a truly powerful learning engine from a simple digital game. First, it absolutely must be built on active recall. This means the app forces your brain to produce the answer from scratch, not just passively recognize it. Simply flipping through flashcards and thinking, oh yeah, I know that one, is incredibly weak. Being forced to type out a full sentence or say it out loud from memory, that is what builds strong neural connections. Second, the best systems use AI-powered adaptive spacing. A one-size-fits-all review schedule is just not efficient because everyone's memory is different. A truly smart app learns your unique forgetting curve for every single piece of information and customizes the review schedule for you in real time. Third, it has to prioritize sentence-based learning. Memorizing words in isolation is a classic beginner's trap. Real fluency comes from understanding how words dance together in natural sentences. Learning the word elated is okay, but learning the sentence, "She was elated to hear the good news," teaches you the word, the grammar, the context, and the correct usage all in one go. And finally, the best tools put you in the driver's seat. They give you user control. You should be able to add your own sentences, your own phrases, and your own vocabulary that is directly relevant to your life and your specific SMART goals. Part of any long journey is learning how to anticipate and navigate the obstacles along the way. For self taught English learners, some of the most common pitfalls, those little traps you fall into, often show up in your writing. But the good news is, these are incredibly common mistakes, and once you learn how to spot them, you can fix them almost instantly. First on our list is the dreaded run on sentence. Specifically, we're looking at a type called a comma splice. Now, this happens when you have two complete, independent ideas, and you try to smash them together using only a comma. A comma just isn't strong enough to do that job. Look at the incorrect example. Margaret went to the mall. That's a full sentence. She bought a new dress. That is also a full sentence. When you stick just a comma between them, it's a grammatical error because it fails to show the proper relationship between the two thoughts. But the fix is so simple. All you have to do is add a small but mighty coordinating conjunction. Words like and, but, or so, right after the comma. Margaret went to the mall and she bought a new dress. See? It correctly links the two ideas into one smooth, perfectly grammatical sentence. Next up is the passive voice. Now, I want to be clear. Using the passive voice isn't always a grammatical error. Sometimes it's actually useful, but a lot of the time it makes your writing weaker, wordier, and less direct than the active voice. In our passive example, the decision was made by the jury. The star of the sentence is the decision. The real actor, the group that did the thing, the jury, gets pushed to the very end of the sentence, almost like an afterthought. This can force your reader to work a little bit harder to figure out who did what. The active voice fixes this in a snap. You simply put the subject, the jury, right at the front where it belongs. The jury made the decision. It's shorter, it's clearer, it's more direct, and it just sounds so much more confident. Okay, this next error is a big one because it can create genuine confusion for your reader. It's the vague pronoun. Let's look at the sentence. Mitchell and Mike went to the game after he finished work. Now stop and think. Who is he? Is it Mitchell? Is it Mike? There's absolutely no way for the reader to know for sure. This ambiguity forces them to pause, to reread, to guess, and that completely breaks the flow of your writing. The fix here is all about providing absolute clarity. You can either just replace the pronoun he with the person's name, or, as in the corrected example, you can restructure the sentence slightly to make the reference unmistakable. After Mike finished work, he and Mitchell went to the game. Now, the pronoun he clearly and logically refers to Mike, the last person mentioned. Problem solved. No more confusion. And finally, we have an error that can create some pretty bizarre and unintentionally funny mental images. It's called the dangling modifier. Now, a modifying phrase, like while standing in the freezing outdoors, is supposed to describe the noun that comes immediately after it. But in our incorrect sentence, what comes next? Thoughts of hot chocolate. So the sentence is literally saying that the thoughts are standing outside in the freezing cold, which, of course, makes no sense. The phrase is dangling because its subject is missing. To fix it, you have to make sure the correct subject, in this case, Louise, is placed right after that opening phrase. While standing in the freezing outdoors, Louise was consumed with thoughts of hot chocolate. Now it makes perfect sense. All right, we've made it. We have reached the final and, frankly, probably the most crucial stage of our entire roadmap. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we talk about how to bridge that massive gap between textbook English, the stuff you learn in class, and the living, breathing, sometimes messy English that people actually use in their everyday conversations. This quote from a self-count learner on Reddit just perfectly captures a very common and very deep frustration. I think every single language learner feels this at some point. You spend years, maybe even decades, meticulously studying the grammar rules. And then you start listening to native speakers and it feels like they're breaking the rules all the time. You learn that you're supposed to say, "Whom did you see?" But everyone around you is saying, "Who did you see?" This huge gap between the formal, prescriptive grammar and the reality of real-world usage can be incredibly confusing and demoralizing. Your goal isn't just to be correct according to a textbook, it's to sound natural, to fit in. So the question is, how on earth do you learn to navigate both? The key is arming yourself with the right guides. Here are 3 of the most highly recommended grammar books in the world, and each one serves a very different, very specific purpose. First up, we have Raymond Murphy's English Grammar in Use. Think of this as your foundational textbook. It is famous for its brilliant layout. On the left-hand page, you get an incredibly clear, concise explanation of a single grammar point, and on the right-hand page, you get targeted practice exercises. It's perfect for building that solid base of rules. Next, we have Michael Swan's Practical English Usage. This book is a masterpiece. It's not a book you read from cover to cover. It's more like a grammar encyclopedia or a Bible. When you have one of those really specific, tricky questions like, what's the subtle difference between these two words? Or why do native speakers say this when the rule says that? Swan has the answer. It is the ultimate guide to nuance and real-world usage. And finally, there's Betty Azar's Understanding and Using English Grammar. This book is beloved by teachers and students because it's both a comprehensive reference and a practice book, and it's especially good at explaining the why behind the rules, helping you understand the logic of the language. But listen, I have to let you in on the real secret, and it's a secret that no book, no matter how great, can teach you on its own. True, deep mastery of grammar only comes from one thing: active use. It is simply not enough to passively read the rules and fill in the blanks in the exercises. That's just intellectual knowledge. The real magic happens when you take a new grammar structure and you make it yours. So after you study a chapter on the present perfect tense, don't just do the drill. Stop and write 5 sentences about your own life, your own experiences, using that structure. And then, and this is the most critical part, say those sentences out loud, again and again. This simple act is what transfers that knowledge from your intellectual brain into your muscle memory. It builds the neural pathways that allow you to produce correct, natural grammar automatically in a real conversation without ever having to stop and think about the rule. Wow, we have covered so much ground today. We've gone all the way from setting those initial goals to picking our learning methods to understanding the nuances of how people really speak. So let's take a deep breath, zoom out, and bring it all together by reviewing the complete 5-step roadmap to fluency that we have just built. Here it is, your entire plan all in one place. Step 1, you have to create your map. Start with those specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound SMART goals. Step 2, choose your path. You're going to strategically blend immersive learning methods for your speaking and listening skills with conventional study methods for your reading and writing accuracy. Step 3, equip your tools. You're going to use smart, science-based SRS apps that prioritize active recall and learning new vocabulary in full, contextual sentences. Step 4, navigate the pitfalls. You're going to learn to identify and quickly correct those common but easily fixable writing errors we talked about. And finally, Step 5, bridge the gap. You'll bridge that gap between the classroom and the real world by using expert grammar guides, and most importantly, by relentlessly turning your passive knowledge into active, spoken use. This right here is your blueprint for success. So, there you have it. The path to English fluency is no longer some big, scary, uncharted wilderness. It's a journey, and you now have the map. You have the compass. You know the route, and you know the pitfalls to avoid. The only thing left to do now is to take that very first step. So, what's it going to be? What is the one specific, measurable goal that you are going to set for yourself this week to start moving forward? Your journey awaits.
You are doing great. Don't stop. Subscribe and watch the next video.